Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie. And look, this is a bit of a different episode for us. Carlton are now 0-4 after a loss to Collingwood, and to just review the match as normal doesn't feel like the best and most productive thing to do, because let's be honest, it was the exact same thing that we've seen so far this season. So we're switching it up a little bit with a midweek special to examine what is really going wrong at Carlton, and a big episode needs a big guest. So we've brought in a great friend of the pod to discuss it all. Robbo, welcome back to the pod. How are you going?
Thank you very much. Good to have me back on here. A few years between drinks, round 1 2022, and the Blues were starting to, slowly climb. So let me just let out a bit of a...
Yes. There'll be plenty of that today, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been way too long since we last had you on. And of course, we're not going to bring you in after a win. We're bringing you back in when it's an absolute disaster, because Lockie and I, we've spoken at length really about everything. And this season, as I said, every single game has transpired pretty much in the same fashion. We're almost running out of ideas, so we need some fresh input. Hopefully you can bring that for us. And so I guess I wanted to start this episode by getting a bit of a vibe check with everyone and to see how we're all feeling, because everything is very bleak right now. Emotions are high around the Carlton fan community. So how are we all feeling after a loss against our big rivals to start the season 0-4?
Get laid out there, Robbo.
Yeah, look, it's not great, is it? I think I don't know. I've been able to reset my expectations pretty well for each game. And I don't know what it is lately, but we stuck it to the Pies, 2023, that absolutely ripping game before I took off overseas. We've come back, we smashed them at the G. It felt like we were starting to turn a bit of the script on Blues v Pies, and just with that, with that battle we've been having with them. And then I don't know, it just didn't feel any of the aggression, the passion, like the desire to want to stick it to the Pies and stick it to our old foe. And yeah, I was honestly just like heartbeat monitor flatlining. Like as soon as we came out second half, it just, I'm sure everyone saw it. I felt it. I was just sitting there mortified. Like my partner came in and was just arrived for the second half, and we were watching it together. And, I texted before, I said, we've kicked the first two. Cripps is on the board. Like it's actually looking pretty good, playing well. Every time I send a text message this year to a family member or a sibling or something, they just go on a run, the opposition team, of like 5 goals in a row. So I'm going to actually stop texting family members when we're playing well. So we got a bit of juju on us. But it was just so, it was just flat, like absolutely crushed that we'd come out again. And I think we'll obviously dive into who's at fault there or where the accountability lies. But honestly, just sitting there and watching a performance where you can't help but think how far we've just dipped from that team in the 2023 run. And just how much we lack in confidence. So it's actually painful. And I guess the biggest thing that makes me frustrated is coming out for the start of the year with a game plan, with a preseason, with a, supposedly, some sort of style that you want to play, coming out 0-4, and then, media, supporters all saying like, let's take the game on more, let's kick more, let's be a bit more precise, let's not just do the long down the line bombing thing that we always do. The fact that like it feels like enough outside pressure is able to change the game style that Carlton plays, I start to question whether we came out of the gates round 1 with a really solid, good game style that was going to get it done anyway. Like, so what I mean is, if the pressure from losing games early in the season and the outside noise is able to almost change the way we look to play, I'd rather us just stick to what we thought was going to work throughout the entire preseason. Like, you can't just get a few games in and go, let's just completely change the game style. Like, I thought we were done sort of building the ship whilst flying it. That's what my intention was, and we can sort of touch on that a bit later about social media, club communications, and where I thought we actually were. Because like the content coming out over summer I was hyped. Like I thought we were going to fucking come out and just guns blazing. So
Me too.
I don't know. We're going to have to touch on the communication and like the way the club's speaking to us and how that plays a part with expectation. Particularly when we look at the list, but that's kind of in a nutshell how I'm feeling. Just a bit of a shock and a bit of flatline, but keen to see what you think, Lockie.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the expectations because, like, as always, it's been a roller coaster of emotions through that game, and then in the week since, like, I'm feeling quite numb at the moment about it because I remember also at halftime texting a bunch of people being like, "This is looking good." Like, things are happening here.
Yeah.
We kicked 4 goals
Yeah.
in that half. Like, I feel like my expectations have changed so much that what I saw in that half, and I was feeling so good. I don't think it was necessarily the scoreboard, but like, as in the fact that we were winning, that I felt good, but something felt different. And now when I look on that in hindsight, it's like, wow, my expectations have really shifted. And it feels like a year ago, if we played that first half, no way would I have been up and about. But that has changed within a month of footy. So, yeah. What about you, Ian?
Yeah, no, we're really just trying to find those little positives whenever we can find them. And everything's just a massive grind at the moment, which just leads to more frustration. You can see it on the players. Nothing is coming easy for them. They were battling in that first half. And then going into halftime, you're like, okay, things are looking a little bit better. We're in this contest. Surely they can't do it again and fall away in yet another second half. Surely that's the only thing that's getting spoken about at halftime. Let's make sure these first 5 minutes we lock in. If we concede the first one, it's go harder for the next one. But for whatever reason, it just falls away. As soon as that pressure builds, as soon as an opposition seems to adjust, the little things, we don't seem to have any answers. And I'm sure we'll get onto it, but like, I don't know if we're going into these halves thinking everything's good. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and not realizing we need to keep evolving, keep being better. It feels like that's a theme for Carlton for so long because look at McRae in his press conference after the game talking about halftime. They went in and said we weren't happy with the way we were defending. We weren't happy with this. We were immediately looking to change it. I'm not sure I've ever really heard Michael Voss mention anything that from a first half they went in, tried to shift. I just don't think I've ever heard any phrases out of his mouth. So it's just a very weird place at the moment for Carlton. And the best way I can put it, and it's so strange, but we're never just mediocre. Like this football club, we're either flying and things are going well, or it's the worst thing you've ever possibly seen. We can't start a season and just be average and finish the season average. It's either flying on top of the ladder and then don't win the next 10, or it's start the season 0-4. And I just don't know why it's either dire or the best thing you've ever seen. It's such a strange scenario with us.
Can I ask a question just based off what you're both saying and just taking you back, Lockie, to that expectation? Like, is it that we're just so deprived and hungry for success and that creates an unrealistic expectation when we see a bit of form like in previous years? Or are we drawing the expectation from the results we've seen, the way the club's sort of communicating, the way things sort of feel, with Voss and his message? Like, is the expectation unrealistic? Like, are we just sitting here and going, okay, we should win, but like we have no right to be saying any of that stuff? Or is it like, no, like we've seen enough, we know enough, we felt a shift. At least I felt a shift 2023, and then okay, kind of we're petering out towards the end of last year, but that to me felt like just because of injury, not because of anything else. But then now I'm starting to think, oh shit, maybe it wasn't because of injury. It was because like slowly, that group has become more disconnected. like the 2023 team, I'm not going to remember the finals teams, but I just feel like we're missing some key players, like cultural players, like mentality players, like players that really switched on. Like, just felt like the whole role players of the team just completely connected. And I think I read something interesting about some people feel like that was more of a player-led movement than a coach-led movement. You know, the Kerno farm trip, getting people down there. Maybe you didn't need a coach to change the game style or do all these crazy things. Like, maybe that could have been a more of a player-led thing, which is why it's a bit more short-term than long-term success. So just keen to maybe touch on where you think the expectation comes from.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good question. I was reflecting on this morning. I often think back to when we started the podcast, which was 2020, and just how differently, I guess, our expectations were at that time. And I remember, like, I mean, it was loss after loss in a very kind of like the expectations for us going into that season were just like, if we can just make finals, that'd be amazing. So then whenever there were losses, I remember us breaking those down, Ian, and we're just like, there was always so many positives in a loss for us to find. It was so easy to find those positives. Where are those positives now? Like, it's so hard for me to find really anything in these games. And yeah, I think that is just purely the expectations, Robert. Like, I think we all feel it, that if things don't go well this year, Voss is gone. It's like, it's gonna happen if this year is a disaster. Not saying that I want it or not, but I don't see him surviving if we are a bottom 3 team this year. And then, so where to from then? The list changes, and this is 10 years kind of down the drain. So sorry to be bleak, but yeah. Ian?
No, I think you're spot on with a lot that you're spot on. Like, the expectation shifts the mindset of everything that you're perceiving out there. And I think what it's been built on and why this expectation is here is, well, at some stage, you can't just accept being bad and not making finals. We built this list. The top end of it has some incredible players, as it always gets spoken about. Brownlow medalists, Coleman medalists, all Australians. There is talent at the top end. And when I think that starts to get into those peak ages and you start to play some finals footy, you naturally kind of expect over the next 3 or so years, some stage that hopefully keeps going up, or at least that's the standard of what this football club is. And you see some of the good football that you spoke about, you know, even last year, that Geelong game and that run we went on there, felt like we'd finally cemented ourselves as, okay, no, we are a genuine threat now in this top 8, not just a top 8 team. Flash forward half a season and we're not even a finals team anymore. You kind of don't know what we are. And I think the expectations that we put on ourselves to a degree are fair, but when you finish just in the eight, don't really get that top 4 football in those 2 years, kind of scraping in a little bit in those 23 and 24. Should we be expecting to take that leap of top 4? Or should the expectation still be battling to get in the 8? And I think going back on the bad of Carlton is, the more we're seeing how bad this gets, the more I think that starts to become the reality that we're not the good Carlton we think we are. We are more this. And until that changes, until we see us be able to be consistent and not start seasons 0-4 and be put under the pump so quickly and struggle under this pressure, I think the reality is we are a team that's not good to battling in the 8, not in the 8 battling for a premiership.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel, but if that's the reality, and I mean, obviously, kind of feels like it is. I'm actually fine with that, as long as we're being creative, honest, and authentic. Like, and that's like around the whole club. Like, I just feel like Voss has gone into damage control, and I don't know. I just don't think, after the recent success of making finals, you know, for a while, actually having a bit of spirit, feeling like the next man up mentality, but then just how that's just fallen away so quickly. I'd rather us not go into damage control and just say, hey, you know what? Jagger Smith doing an ACL, that was so not ideal because we were really hoping to have a different style of midfielder coming into the season. So let's try some things. We're gonna go through some different things. And then you can look at it and say, you know what, Cooper Lord's last game, and he's looking decent. He's actually looking like wanting to take the game on. It's a young kid who's maybe taking an opportunity where if Jagger Smith was there, who knows? So I feel like we could be even more authentic and more honest about where we're at because like Nick Newman, even you and I, Lockie, were talking about it. Maybe it could be a good thing. Well, no, it's actually not, is it? You know, we've lost some leadership down there, and the back line looks really devoid of leadership and support, you know, to assist Wiedering. So can we just call a spade a spade? Can we just say, yeah, the back line's in a bit of a spot where it needs to evolve its identity with a new, you know, kind of combo of guys down there. And like, I just rather call things what they are because it's just silly, like saying, "Oh, Carlton should be good. Carlton should be good. Strong list," and then we don't put up these performances where you think we're at, and then you just hear nothing. You hear nothing that just admits where we're at truly. Because I'd rather deal with that Carlton, and then that way we would go to a game and not be so high. We would just be like, there'll be some things that we'll see which are good, given what's happening, and then yes, it's disappointing to lose, but I just don't love the avoiding the obvious sometimes. I don't know how that affects things.
Like, it hasn't felt obvious to me, though. Like, I've had this optimism going into every game that, like, obviously the Richmond game, I had it on record that, you know, I would have done. There was absolutely no way we were going to lose that. I then felt confident going into Hawthorn because I still hadn't, you know, I didn't feel shattered then. So still going into every game, I feel like, well, this is the game that we turn it around. So I don't know if that's me missing something that's obvious or, yeah, I think I've said this in basically every episode this year that, like I say to Ian, well, maybe we're going to look back on these 2 games, these 3 games, these 4 games at the end of the season and be like, wow, what a crazy time that was. What a different team that was to what we are now. And it's pretty baseless for me to think that. It's pretty much just hope.
Yeah, but you feel that we play different, don't you? Like you feel it's like it's completely out of sync. So
the third quarter of this game was it genuinely felt like 22 different players running out after halftime.
Yeah. I just wonder what difference it would make on a player mentality. Like, you know, I don't know much about Harry's situation or other players who are even just out of form. But like confidence and mentality under all this pressure to just be a finals team, I just wonder how that's mucking around some of the confidence of the players. Like, I don't know what part of the psychology needs to improve to get a better, you know, unity amongst the group. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
And I think right now, is it just what you're saying? Do we need to just accept that this build up into this point, this 10-year rebuild, going through it, the toughest cut ever of this list, starting again, has just been a failure now? We've gone through a few coaches. We've tried to build it. Is simply the peak of this formation a prelim final? Is that it? And do we need to accept this reality? And you look at, I've got some stats in front of me at the moment, which were out of all the minutes played this year, it was basically ranking the age demographics of each team. And for ages 22 and under, we rank 14th for those that went out on the park. 23 to 25, 14th. 26 to 28 years, we're 4th. 29 and over, we're 5th. So clearly the list is built to be a contender. That's a profile that says we're playing finals, we're trying to win a premiership right now. The only positive I can kind of see out of us not being just that mediocre team and scraping a couple of wins, like if we'd beaten the Doggies, if we'd beaten Richmond, and we just have a real bang average season, is that because it's so bad, we've seen Carlton be so high, we've seen us be so low over this at least Vossi run. If we're really bad, we can address the problems and accept that there are issues, that we can't just gloss over it and say, well, we've seen some good, so we have to back it in. That's kind of my only positive right now, is this may genuinely be what we need to actually affect and make some change.
Yeah, that's exactly what we said at the end of last season, right? Because the tough decisions kind of didn't have to be made because we kind of fell over the line and made a final and all that kind of thing. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me not to transition to the list, to the next thing that's being picked.
Yeah. Well, talking a little bit about the mentality, I know we've touched on it a little bit, but where are you seeing that? Because that feels like something you've brought up a couple of times as an underlying issue. Is that one of the biggest things that you're seeing with, whether it's coaching, whether it's higher up in the club, or just throughout the playing list, all of it? Is that where you believe most of the issues stem from? What's your kind of take on the mentality piece right now?
It's always interesting observing other people's reaction to like our performances, and obviously big club, big attention, always going to attract a lot of attention. You know, a lot of people love it when the Blues are going rubbish, but also a lot of people can't help but just love watching the Blues play good footy as well. I've always find that quite interesting. Plenty of people to knock it down, but plenty of people to jump on board and go, yes, baggers, go through. Like, I want to see this. So I guess the mentality now from the outside is that, completely underperforming. I think where I look at the mentality, I also think about identity. And I think, what is the current identity? We're taking this stronger together thing, from like a club sort of corporate level. I'm not sure how that actually feels. I'm not sure how that works. I always find those things really dicey when you make a statement, something like stronger together, and it's just obvious if the on-field doesn't reflect that. How does the off-field reflect that over our off-season? We've had a list of changes. I mean, anytime someone's genitalia comes up as a subject of discussion, from a high-ranking official, is going to question a lot. And I think like I was thinking about just, injury to Jagger, this weird saga, lots of things that are just not positive, stable things coming into a season. And then just a little bit of weakness, a little bit like 5% off on field. And all of a sudden everything looks like it's crumbling. And I just feel like a stronger identity with players, with coach, with who we are and what we want to be, and a bit more authenticity might have helped just sort of transition us into a better position. Because I feel like it is just a lot of friction now between what we say and what we do. So I don't know. I don't really think too much about the corporate stuff and the behind the scenes. I think you guys are a bit more in the know with that. But ultimately, I think Voss's messaging, like someone's not really speaking to him about how to improve his messaging in press conferences. He's not really getting advice or feedback to how to connect a bit better. Like, supporters speaking for supporters, like no one wants to see him chuckle at a press conference. No one wants to see him just say we've got to get to work again. I mean, I was so fed up with the get to work slogan 2 years ago, when we went through that bad patch of form. Like, it's a given. It is such a given. But I hear Brad Scott talking about some of Essendon's critical issues and how they're trying to address that. How a player can simply, like Ben Mackay, can just be out of form, but there are ways that you can coach them into, they're not bad players. They're just literally doing 2%, 5%, just a little bit off, and something's affected in a running pattern. Something's affected in a zoning play of defense, and that can affect them. He talks with such a nice, and other coaches around the league, Sam Mitchell, they talk with just such a truth and an honesty about players and psychology. And Voss doesn't really talk about our players. It's like he doesn't really share too much. He doesn't want to give everything away. He's very guarded. And we're just going to get to work on it. We know what we got to do. There's problems. We're working on them. We have high standards. And just tell me, like, just tell me something a bit more detailed and a bit more strategic to let us in. Just let us in. And I think the club is actually struggling at letting us in properly so that we can just embrace what we are, understand things so that when Mackay stands in front of the big sticks and had his woes, not everyone's laughing at him and bringing him down. Like, I just think there's so much accountability for coach, club, but also supporters. How does our mentality on a game day, when we get into the stadium, there's energy, there's vibes, like what you put out
this
there.
year. It's been very bad this year.
That accumulates. Like, I think if you go to a game and you think the things that you say or the energy you put out there, the people you affect in your little circle around you, if you think that doesn't have an impact on the game or players, even though it's just marginal, you're kidding yourself. So there's a role for everyone to play. And I think these clubs, like we touched on it a bit over message, Lockie, but those clubs like Hawthorn and the Lions can weather a shitstorm. They can be crap for a few years and turn it around. But I don't think about Hawthorn supporters, friends that I know or things like that, getting way too down on their clubs. Like the Lions supporters I know getting absolutely filthy on their clubs, abusing them. Like, I just don't like. Of course, there's a big size demographic of supporters, but just the ones that I know are haven't really thrown the baby out with the bathwater when their teams have gone down. And clearly, winning culture, recent success allows you to be a little bit more mild with your expectation. But that's where I think Carlton is stuck in the past. Thinks to its 90s glory days, gets all the old fellas around the club. And so there's an expectation of us being a great historic club, but we actually haven't seen that for so long. So the current players are not connected to that in any way whatsoever. So that's also a disconnect. So that's part of the
the disconnection's massive. And do you think that that's a lot down to that communication and authenticity? Because I think the Vossi press conference thing is something I've touched on for a while in just the way he speaks to us. Like you're saying, he doesn't. It's like he's trying to beat the journos, and that's the battle he's having. Not realizing this is a moment I get to speak to the fans and try to sell the message of what's going on. And like another thing that they speak about all the time after a bad loss, we're gonna have to have some honest conversations after that one. And all you can think is, well, you said that last time. So obviously these honest conversations either aren't happening, aren't honest enough. You're not able to deal with an honest conversation, but why are they happening now? Why weren't we having them round one? Why was this the first time that we saw Michael Voss finally in a press conference actually show a glimpse of honesty, question the standards at the club? That needed to happen 1 year ago, but at least after round one, he needed to storm into that press conference, line in the sand moment and say, that's not good enough. This isn't the standard. I don't care what happened in the first half. I know there's a long season, but if we don't get it right now, it's not going to be right for the rest of the season. We can't be just looking at we'll fix these issues. We've got to sort them out now. We don't get that rhetoric from the club. So is that where you're seeing this disconnect when they're not telling you what's happening? Everything just becomes disjointed.
Yeah, I'm happy to throw to you, Lockie, if you've got a sense of
I
could tell you were thinking something just then. I'll let you go there.
Well, everyone listening knows my view on the press conferences and that kind of thing. And if we didn't do this show, like, I wouldn't listen to Voss's press conferences ever, because you never get anything of substance. But did you guys watch Walshy's one from yesterday?
Yeah.
Or the day before?
I haven't. I've missed that.
I don't know if you agree, Ian. Complete and utter nonsense, I thought. Like, if you think about the actual responses that he had to questions, one, they weren't responses to questions. Like, they would ask a question about something specific and he'd talk about something completely different. And then whatever he'd say was complete, like media drivel. So not to take the pressure off Voss here, but it's everyone at the club when they get in front of the camera. I walk away from it and I go, why did I listen to that? Why did you even get in front of the camera if you're going to just say gibberish?
You saw it with Wiederings as well. He stopped himself halfway through when he was doing the classic PR talk of, we did this in the first half. He literally pauses and goes, I can't say this. I can't talk about had the positives,
Right.
that was garbage, and then immediately pivots, and finally we get a bit of honesty. He questions the players' mentality, which I thought was interesting. The first time someone, particularly in the playing group, has kind of brought that up as an issue, something fans have thrown out there as a conversation in, we're having these issues, we're faltering at these big moments. Are we mentally weak? What did you guys both think when you heard someone in the four walls, particularly a player, a leader, behind a microphone on live TV, questioning the player's mentality? Is that a good thing? Where did you sort of sit with that?
Go, Robbo.
I haven't listened to the whole thing, but I know exactly what's the gist of it. And I just want to say this: Wiedering's a smart guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's a smart guy. He's an intelligent guy, and he's essentially held a strong line of form throughout his entire career. I think he's justified to say whatever he wants, and I think he kind of knows letting in a bit of that subject of like, okay, yeah, mentality wise, yeah, we're off. Like some guys need to lift. Like he's being more honest. Like Wiedering is smart enough to know if he stands in front of a camera after a game where we've had another second half fade out, he is smart enough to know that anything he says to try and PR gloss over that fact will be smelt a mile away. Like Vossi trying to say, oh, I think we're pretty good to that reporter in round 2 or something at the second half. It's like, look how badly that's aged. He's created that for himself. If he had simply said, we weren't happy with the way we ran out that game.
There's nothing bad about saying that.
Talking about it for 4. What is wrong with saying that? Then the supporters know, yes, what we're seeing is the right thing that the coach is saying and seeing. So, okay, let's ease up. We know they've got to get better there. But if the coach is not admitting it, we're just going to keep fucking harping on about it. And so too of I used to be a person who watched every football program. Yes, I'm not in Melbourne and my KO doesn't work, which I'm a bit sad about. But I go to YouTube and I hit the different clips and I think, you know, I'm sort of sick of watching them now because we're just in every single one of them. But I mean, you know, everyone's chopping us up. And the more that you honestly say to just preempt what everyone's trying to pick apart, you control the narrative. If you're going to be a stonewall, not give anything away, and you're just going to put drivel out there, yeah, they will literally pick you apart. You've not controlled any part of the narrative. If you just said we're in a major form slump, group's lost confidence, we're still trying to work out a few parts with key injuries to positions that we didn't expect over the offseason. We're going to work this. We're going to get this going. We still believe everyone can get it going. But yeah, we're in a form slump now. Everyone would just be like, okay, Carlton's in a form slump. I know there'd still be commentary around it, but God, it'd just be a way more realistic place to like operate from. And maybe the players don't go out there in the second half and go, oh God, this is what everyone's saying. If everyone knew they were in a form slump from the moment the ball gets bounced at quarter 1, the second half's are less of a thing. It's more about, can we play good high-level footy, yes, for the whole game, but just knowing the context that we're operating in. We're trying to get better. We're working it out. We didn't start the way we wanted to, but yeah. So I think Wiedering, just to come back to that, knows exactly what he's doing, and he's probably a bit fed up. He's probably a bit frustrated. So fair enough to him.
The one consistent thing that I've felt throughout this 4-week period is when questioned about fitness, everybody is saying it's not fitness, right? Every player and coach says that fitness is not what we're working with here. So if we want to believe that that's true, which I don't know if I do, it feels to me there's only 2 possible things that could be part of this, the shift that happens after halftime, which is it's either mentality or it's an intentional game plan strategy shift. So which is it? Because I don't know. If it's because I just, if it's not mentality, then I just don't understand why we would have changed the way we played so much in that third quarter. Like we said, completely different teams. I know that Collingwood changed the way that they played. I know it's not all about us. And but it was, the method was just incomparable. So yeah, I don't know.
It felt like we couldn't actually touch the ball.
Yeah. Or anytime that we had it, just get it long again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's been an issue.
I don't see any way that mentality isn't part of it. Sorry, Ian.
No, you're fine. I feel like every time they sort of take away, the opposition is able to take away our strength, which goes back to that identity that you were sort of talking about, Robbo. And at least with us, it's meant to be these strong, contested beast footballing side. Now, all of a sudden, we're not strong in the contest. We're not going 100% into some challenges. We're not being able to win the contested footy. That happened in that third quarter. So if that's not your identity, and once your identity kind of gets taken away anyway, what's your next mode? And that's my issue in a coaching sense is, okay, Collingwood started that third quarter and winning the ball first. We need other methods, because you can't just expect to win the ball for a whole game of football in every critical contest. So how are we setting up defensively to just be able to absorb? How are we winning the ball from the back half, transitioning, and okay, now it's transition mode. And we have a strong transitional mode of game style that can get us through until we get that contest back. We just don't seem to have these leaders. And mentality-wise with the players, they just, even if there is a plan and they're not adhering to it, they just switch off so much. And you see that confidence that Robbo was talking about just completely disappear.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly it.
How is that not there with these boys? That's the biggest question that kind of needs to be answered throughout this season internally, whether that's the coaching staff aren't able to pull it out of the group, whether that's the players themselves simply don't have it. That can happen too. Do we need people there that have that? I'm not sure what the actual answers are, but there's just so many little pieces that are all going wrong together at the same time. I think First Crack nailed it perfectly, just showing a few things that maybe were clear why it's not 100% fitness in those last quarters, with players just not following the run, not following the player, miscommunication, and all of a sudden there's spares everywhere. But this has been the problem for the last 8 years for Carlton, if not more, of we just can't seem to all be on the same page together for long enough.
Then it can't be players, because over 8 years, the players and the mix has been different. Like, maybe it's we haven't had the quality of players for 8 years, but it can't be obviously the specific players today. But then because of the recent experience with some of these players, you think, oh, but they are good. They can win a game. They can do these things. So it's very confusing. But we end up actually, like, second half onwards, speaking about the Collingwood game, we end up looking to force things. And even when it almost feels like we get to a point where we know we're in that situation again, where the game is completely out of our hands, and then we look to force things, and is the most, like, non-natural method of style of play. I don't know how many times we handball looking for the overlap run with Sard on his right side. It is so painful. And to me, like, someone who loves basketball and has played that for ages, you do not set a screen for someone on their weak side hand if you're trying to get them a bucket. Like, if you're trying to get them to go to the hoop, you set them the screen on their strong side. Or if someone's slashing and cutting, you make sure they're slashing into the spot where they're going to get it, finish strong side. Hand passing to Sard under pressure when he's on his right side, he clearly never kicks with that foot, like if he's trying to do a pin pass. And he ends up, really getting into an awkward spot. But we've handballed at him because we're like, oh, Sard's the answer, right? Overrun. Carlton needs to be fast. And we just force it. And we do too much of that forcing of a style that you have to let that come naturally. And why is that not coming naturally should be the question. Why is that not coming naturally when we've seen glimpses? We can play like that. Yes, confidence. Yes, mentality. But I was just so perplexed to see Carlton pinpoint like incision, like kicking round one against Richmond in that first quarter. I was like, whoa. I was like, we've changed our entire game. We're just going to kick like Sydney of a couple of years ago. But once the pressure comes, once you're into those quarters where you're absolutely gassed, no one is got the confidence or probably is too fatigued to make a pinpoint kick. So that's the way either. So I just feel like strategically we haven't thought about that. Does the game stand up over 4 quarters? Clearly not. I think they've got this issue of like, oh, we thought we'd be able to do it. We trained it like we'd be able to do it. But now under real game pressure, that strategy is just now we can't force that.
And it's your year 4 into building. It's not even building at this point. This should be the almost final evolution of this game plan that you have slowly just the first year was laying the foundations. The second year was, okay, we're taking it to the next level. And then just tiny little tweaks every single year. And we're at the point 4 years in and it's, well, I don't know what it is. What is it? What are we trying to do? It's not working. We're having to find a whole new way to get it done. At that stage, I just don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not right here saying we need to sack Voss right this second. It's all him. There's a whole collective. There's so many other elements. But 4 years in, it needs to be better than this. We can't be still trying to figure out what our identity is, what our game style is. That should all be down pat. There's the whole point of stability and getting 4 years in is what you've been able to build over this time, not starting from scratch every single preseason. And that kind of feels like the area that we've been in throughout this tenure.
Yep. What's the next topic, Ian? I don't have anything to add to that.
Oh, I did have one other thing, but left on mentality. Basically, 2 little things. I kind of go into the one that I wanted your thoughts on that I had a bit of a think about it because something that I heard Jad mention on the fan cams on Blue Abroad a few weeks ago, and it sort of just stuck in my head, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. And it was a little bit around Brian Cook, CEO, and the big thing that he always says that you've probably, if you ever heard him speak, he's like, when I came to the club, when they win, it's a party. When they lose, it's a funeral. And his whole thing was trying to level that out a little bit. And Jad had this perspective of, have we tried to change something that was truly us and the passion, and has that had a negative effect because you haven't been able to step in and embrace something that is us and channel it in a proper way? You've almost tried to look at it and say that's a problem and switching it. And basically the other part around this, because I feel like it is the leveling out side of this, another big rhetoric that I've heard the last couple of seasons is we treat wins and losses the same. We review wins and losses the same. Now, I think on paper, that sounds like a very professional thing to do. Okay, let's try not to get too up, get too down. But I'm currently halfway through Chris Judd's book, and I was reading it on the weekend, and there was a really little bit of passage that just stood out to me, which was, and he was sort of talking about individuals at the start of this, so that'll link in, but he was like, what is true of individuals is true of clubs. Good or bad, they are a hostage to their conditioning. Looking back, that was Carlton and West Coast. If West Coast lost a game, the attitude was that we needed to sort this out, and by next week. At Carlton, losing was the norm. And that kind of made me think, well, if we're treating wins and losses the same internally, yet I'm hearing from one of the best players that has ever done it, that was at a football club who won premierships, and their mentality was, you lose, you fix it straight away. We're treating the losses with importance. Is this an issue? What we've been trying to do in changing the passion of the football club, and then also not putting more emphasis on a loss? Where do you kind of see those two components?
Please take this, Robbo. That is incredibly complicated topic, but I like it.
There's the first thing you said, which was really good. I tend to agree with this. Something about trying to make us, I'm going to butcher my English language here, like homogeneity, like homogenous, like sameness. Like if you're trying to put a blanket of sameness over us, standardization, make us feel like a certain thing, I don't know. Yes, I think you do run the risk of jeopardizing what makes it special to go for the club and what makes it special to get around things. And I mean, whether we like it or not, the environment that we've been exposed to, definitely our generation, is one that hasn't had success for a long time. So I think there's two levers. One, to lean into the fact that that's the case, so that when we do start to feel success, we become very grateful, appreciative of it. We become very strong together because we've all got this empathy for the fact that it was a sad period before that. And so now that it's good, we almost like appreciate it 10 times more. I imagine when St Kilda win the next flag, is what I'm sort of saying. And then if they win the next flag.
We love a drive, St Kilda drive by on the pod. I'm glad we brought a guest on and straight away has nailed it. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I guess that's what I think. You don't want to just become another, like, let's be real, like AFL, like, and you know, I'm gonna slowly side rant another drive by the scoreboards that we're seeing on the screens. Like,
they're bad.
We don't need to become like an NFL team. We don't need to become American in everything we do, from the pre-game to the pump ups to the way that we do media and communication. Like, there are some things which make football uniquely great, and those are the cultural connections that people have to their club, like the spiritual connections. Like, I think we've lost in this pursuit of sameness, of trying to be high professional and elite. We've lost like some of the spirit of what is actually quite awesome to be a Carlton member. I mean, Icon Park is in like one of the best places in the country. Like, Lygon Street, going for a coffee or a pizza after a win, at Cafe Naturno, rest in peace, now gone. But those things, that's part of the spirit of the club. And it's like when you move to a new country, you have to relocate, integrate. What is the norm? What is the done thing? And then you kind of get involved in that and you get swept up in it. And it's a beautiful thing. Every place that you relocated to around the world was the same, it'd be awful. You wouldn't go anywhere. So what is uniquely amazing about being a Carlton supporter? What is uniquely special about that? How do we want to celebrate the wins? How do we want to sort of constructively criticize the losses? Those things matter. And I guess we're not really given much advice from the club itself. We see these Instagram posts after a loss, and the captions, no one is telling them how bad these captions are. Like, I don't even want to think of what they are, but just what couldn't last out, or didn't get it done tonight, or tough one under the dome, or like, I just think like there's actually a nicer, better, more spiritual way to handle the club. And it sounds a little bit greeny left of field, but if we actually thought a little bit more about the spirit and energy of the club, we could sort of start to heal some of these problems a bit easier, I think.
Yeah, I think I really liked how you preface this question, Ian. Where my mind went was where we were when we had the review in 2021, and that new kind of era that, like, it was supposed to be the end of an era and the start of a new era with Sayers, Cook, and Voss. And think back to the last time Robert was on the pod, start of 2022, and everything felt like it had changed. It's just interesting to reflect, I think, on like what the Voss era has been so far, where we just had the highest of highs at the start of 2022, where we were like, oh my God. I remember doing this podcast every week and being like, we're never going to lose again. How good is this? Everything went down, and then it continued to go down, and then we made it back up in 2023. And last year was what it was, and now we're here. I don't know. It's just interesting to reflect on that, I think, and I those comments from Judd, I think, is very interesting as well. That it sounds like that could be comments made by Cripps in his book when he looks back on this time. Like, it's kind of sad that 10 years on, it kind of feels the same, like that rhetoric.
That was the worst thing. I was then reading and he's talking about how, you've been so conditioned to lose and not expect anything, and that when you live in that and that is what the environment is, it's very hard to get out of that. And this is kind of the first iteration where the pressure's gone up, the expectation has changed. And I still think that's a good thing to have high expectations. Clearly, Juddy seemed to agree. But I guess now is that interesting component where we haven't kind of lived this before with Carlton. They've been really bad majority of our lives. And when we started to get the uptick, all three of us were pretty young. Those were kind of our formative moments. So this is the first, okay, we've had a little bit of finals. Now the expectations are high and we're falling away. How do we react? And I think that kind of goes to the next thing that we've touched on a little bit, but the role of supporters. And I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this, Robbo, because every little thing you've kind of said around this, I get really interested. And I honestly just want you to take the wheel with this one. Where do you kind of see our role and our responsibility? Because we can come on here every single week and say what we think the club should be doing and everything like that. But what can we do? And what do you see our role? And how can we better connect with this football club and try to get some positive change?
It's important, isn't it? I think what just springs to mind is like, and I think it's different for every supporter based on how football sort of plays a part in their life and like what their sort of routine is and what their sort of schedule is and how passionate they feel at certain parts. Like I have no shame in saying like my passion for watching and being completely invested in every bit of news and content and media throughout my lifetime has evolved. Like there were times when I was absolutely Carlton everything. You know, growing up, you're just decked out in all the merch. And there's times you sort of growing up through teenage years, don't have the success on field, your interest sort of dips a little and then it comes back and then you become an adult and then you start enjoying the perks of going to the football with friends and then having a good club that's competing gives you a sort of way to sort of, you know, make jokes amongst your friends. But it's like, we're good, you're shit. And so you start to really get involved and passionate and engaged again, depending on how your life revolves around it. But at the end of the day, it's a game that's just awesome to watch when it's going well. So and enjoying a sport for just that simple love for it is where we all just need to come back to. I mean, they're people, they're humans. Like they will play well, they will play bad. There'll be things that happen. Taper your expectation. Focus more on like just the love for the game. And I guess I think there is some beauty in tapering your expectations so that it isn't too high and it's not too low when things happen. But just we're here because we love football. We desire, we hope for a club that is good enough to win it and play it at a high level. But you need to taper your expectation. I mean, right now, Carlton's not playing in a way that means I want to be fully connected to everything happening. Yeah, I don't want to be watching everything, spending all my time thinking about football because we're just not good enough. They're not really giving me a reason to tune in, like to hyper focus on them. And I think that's just part of life. I mean, I'm living overseas. I'm structuring my life, my mornings. You know, I'm still giving quite a bit to make it still work, even though I'm in a different place. So when they start to bring a standard and a level that I expect and that I would like from them, I will be there. I will be connected to it. I think that's where the club likes to go into damage control because it wants to make sure it's got members and it wants to make sure it's got money and all those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, nothing will change the fact that if they put a good performance, absolutely we'll be right there. I don't think that anyone's going to not want to go to a game when the Blues are playing well. And yes, there's keeping the faith and still turning up. And when I'm based in Melbourne, even if we, I can't remember, Lockie, we'll go into games, we'd just come off 4 or 5 losses and we'll go to the 6th one, we'll go to the 5th game. Like that's not the issue. We still do generally have hope, but a supporter needs to just not get too down at the end of the day. Like there's things that we can critically address about the club and be critical about, particularly with management. But when it comes to the players, yeah, I mean, there definitely has to be accountability, but just, yeah, when they bring it, I'll be there. But that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. I think for me, like how I view the role of the supporter definitely is still evolving. And I think my current stance is that it's very individual. Like sometimes I want to try and paint everyone with the same brush as me, like someone that is very optimistic and, you know, I'm never going to be too like slander too hard individuals or the club or that kind of thing. And you hear how people are like reacting on talkback and all those things, which is becoming like the narrative of the Carlton supporter. And kind of, it seems like people use that, like they use their level of frustration in tandem with what a passionate supporter they are. You know what I'm getting at. But it's not right for me to say that isn't how you should react either. And there is times when I'm extremely frustrated and down on the club, but my methods of expressing that are very different. And I try and be an optimistic, positive voice when we come on here. So yeah, I feel like the role of every supporter is individual to them. And I guess that's probably what makes footy what it is.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And I think there's definitely things I'd love to change, but like you're saying, everyone is different. I can't make everyone me, and that'd be a bad thing. You don't want too many me's around the place.
There's
but
already too many.
One thing that I see quite a lot that I would like to be able to change is this rhetoric and narrative that if your team is bad or Carlton are bad, that it is it's bad if you go to the next game because you're accepting the standards that are bad. And I'm a clown, I'm an idiot, look at me, I'm going again. And I hate that. I hate that feeling. And I see people and different people's reactions to games, and it's like, oh, I got sucked in again. I'm an idiot. I'll be there next week. And it's like, yes, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It does not have
like
to be
watching football.
Yes, we're gonna be there. That's not, for me, that's not a negative, and I don't like that it's starting to get tarred as this. We're all idiots for being there and supporting our team. And you can have this expectation that is high and hold the club to what you believe is the account and standard that it needs to be. But also, on the other hand, be supportive and have that hope and go into each game and want us to be better and be happy that you saw some little positives. It's not a bad thing to come onto a podcast and talk about the positives you saw that week. That doesn't mean you're throwing out all the negatives. And I feel like that little narrative around things is where I'm hoping that there's this shift, because if you follow any sport, if you follow any club in anything, just to win, just to be good, there's no point, because for majority of your life, your team's not going to win. Should it be better? Does Carlton need to be better right now? Yes. But I don't know. That for me needs to change, where we can't be calling ourselves clowns for supporting the football club. We're allowed to. We're idiots. We're passionate, crazy supporters. That's a good thing in my book.
Yeah. I think that speaks to Robbo's point about like how you can your infatuation and your engagement with it all changes over time. Like for me, 2018 was the only time that I can really remember where I kind of dipped away a bit. Like I don't think it was intentional, but my love for it just kind of faded a bit that year because it was so relentless. And, you know, I remember like the moves that we made in the off season before 2018, it was like, oh my God, this is so uninspiring. And that's just what it was for me in that year. I knew that I still love Carlton more than anything, and we're going to be back. But right now, I'm not as invested as it is. And I think that's okay for people to have that with sport. Like all three of us have our love for different sports, and the clubs that we support has not been linear over time. I've fallen in love with Chelsea in 1 year, where I never thought about them for a second 12 months ago. And they're right up there now. So I think it's okay. I don't know if supporters need to hear this, but if you're not enjoying things right now, it's okay to not be as invested as you were a year ago, and just it's not helpful being that voice that Ian described, where you build this narrative up amongst us all about we're all idiots. If you're not enjoying it, take a step back for a moment and come back when it feels right. I don't think that's a bad thing to say as a supporter.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
And you just got me thinking, like, the beauty of the dip and the peaks and the troughs is a particular player that comes through at a time, and for some reason you're just completely drawn to the way they play, and you love that, and all of a sudden you build a narrative around following this one thing. So like you mentioned different sports, like when Derrick Rose came to the Chicago Bulls, I'd watch plenty of Michael Jordan documentaries. I'd watch plenty of Bulls, through the 90s documentaries. I didn't really give too much care. I always said I was a Bulls supporter because of those documentaries. Then Derrick Rose comes in, boom. I think I watched NBA for 3, 4, 5 years straight, had the league pass, would turn on in school, I'd be watching Derrick Rose in the playoffs against LeBron James, help me like create like a deep hatred for LeBron, deep passion for Derrick Rose because, he was keeping him out of the finals. It was like, all you need is like one player at one time to really spark that connection to the club and go, yeah, I want them to succeed. And then I want the teammate who's helping them to also succeed because they're kind of helping play this whole narrative. So I think like Cripps coming in and getting drafted was the moment I thought Carlton has some DNA of it's sick of this shit of losing for so long. And there's a kid going through at 18 years of age, just busting through packs like, yeah, I'm sick of it too. I want to do well. And that was enough to just go, okay, who do we need to support this guy who gives a shit? Like who's clearly like got so much skill, plays the game with a great intensity that gets you to sort of tune in. You can't help but just be completely fixated on what that person does next. So like sports is so funny. Like the supporters are individual, and individual supporters connect to individual players as well, just as much as the club. Like sometimes more connected to a player than to a club.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and it's funny because at different times, Bet's coming back in, and I don't know, like people have a hyper, love for just Simo. Like there'd be people who just say Simo's my most loved player that's ever played for, Matty Lapper, Fev. Like, so today you can still love the way certain players go about it. Like everyone in my friendship group hates Silvani. They just completely hate on him. They think Carlton is a shit team with the depth if Silvani's in there. But I just love the way he started this year. Like I just absolutely love the mentality to say, okay, it was dicey. My career wasn't looking great at forward. Go down back, train in the off season, come back from a knee injury, and then throw it forward and just look a completely different person going for the ball. And then to go down back and do a role again. Like he's someone who's like, wow, okay, there's something about him where maybe he's shifting his narrative for himself and I can get around that. Like that's worth seeing. How does Silvani play next week? Even if Carlton was a shambles, like is he still giving it a crack? Like George Hewitt, is he playing for his career? Like what's happening there? But he's absolutely, he's blazing away. He's been our best player. I was looking at the game. I was like, why is Hewitt the only one playing well against Collingwood right now? I couldn't believe it.
It's insane. And I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it from him, but it's like we shouldn't be at the point where he's our best player right now. Like that's as good as it is. It's like we shouldn't. But is that something right now that's going to make us fall in love again because we're seeing this guy play the way he is? Because a couple of years ago, he started to become one of my favorite players because he was just no nonsense. I'll get it done. When we had quite a lot of these, and we're about to touch on them, but we had a lot of these sort of like little bit of spark and then just sort of disappear players. And George Hewitt was just I'm 8 out of 10 every week and I'm just going to give you everything. And I think that's a clear, important thing. So I guess touching on that, depth has been something that's been brought up quite a lot as maybe a reason why this season has started so poorly and why maybe the rest of the season won't go so well. I'll throw it to you, Robbo. Do you think that we've cut the depth too much this season? We've removed a few senior players that, whether they're best 22 or not, we relied on them quite a lot. I'm talking Owies, Kennedy, Martin, Carroll, Cunningham. There's a bunch of them, but have we cut too deep, and have we not adequately replaced those kind of players?
I think what we've been talking about just the last 10, 15 minutes touches on, a lot. Like Bam Bam and Owies. Like that's 2 bits of culture, 2 bits of chemistry that the supporters loved. There would have been so many Owies fans, so many Bam Bam fans. And I think we don't want to underestimate the fact some of this friction and some of this tension is as a result of losing a bit of the spirit and the energy that, Owies has been there when Carlton wasn't so good, and then turned himself into a pretty handy small forward for us. And there was issues with sometimes his quality, but I think, just looking at the way we've started, and I already touched on this with you guys before, but no one had the crystal ball for Jagger, but we could really use Kennedy and Owies at the moment. It's interesting how we there's give and take. And there just seems to be a few problems with depth. Absolutely. I mean, I think about some of the different changes. My mind just goes back to moments where you thought that player's having a crack and changing the game. Chin Cotter. Interested to hear your thoughts, but we miss the speed. He was the other side, He had that speed and that kick and willing to take and break the line. We miss him. We miss Kennedy's contested mark around the ground. Just puts 2 hands up no matter what. I feel like we've sort of downgraded with Chera in that sense. He hasn't come up to that point that I thought Chera was ready to go to. So it's you take a bet on him naturally, but where are we leaving ourselves vulnerable? Contest and pressures dipped away. That's what we sort of gave away with Kennedy. But in saying this, with the changes and the list movement, the one thing I want to see us is backing in young players, because that's the only thing to me that justifies moving pieces around, is having a solid group of young players coming through the team and not being afraid to play them. I don't know. It's obviously, say what you will about Richmond, but then second week I would have made changes. Third week I would have made changes. So it just seems like that idea of changing over the young players and addressing some of this youth issue is only happening now that we're losing. But doesn't a great club just have that embedded in the whole process? How much have we given Bins a go? How much, yes, Carroll's coming in this week, which is awesome, but how much have we really given the other guys a go? Cooper Lord, are we at a point where you just need to play him now for a month, see what we get?
Is the issue that they're not performing at VFL level and there isn't form around a lot of these players? They haven't had prolonged performance. And then when you're dropping someone out of the team for poor performance and standards, but then you're bringing in someone else who isn't performing, my mind still agrees with, if someone isn't doing what you're asking them to do in the ones, you can't keep them in. It doesn't matter who comes in. You need to set the tone that this is what we accept, this is what we don't accept. But I think the argument going on at the moment is, well, Binns hasn't shown enough. These kind of players, Billy Wilson, and the depth of these younger players that we're all saying, should we give them a go? Where's the balance, I guess, for you in selecting players that maybe haven't earned it? And does that then set a bad standard like we did with Dow and O'Brien and that? It's because I don't necessarily have a good answer on it, but it's a really tough sort of balancing act. Where does that sit with you two?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I guess maybe there's an assumption there that there are players right now that aren't doing what they're told, which may not actually be true. like Vossi in the Collingwood press conference, I think it was, he said, it might have been about the back line. Like, we've chosen to be stable. Like, we've made the decision that we're not going to make those big changes to try and build that consistency. I agree with that message. I also agree with your point, Ian, that if someone's just completely like week after week not doing the role that they've been assigned to do, for whatever reason, then there needs to be accountability. And then your point is also good, but you see what happens when you bring Moya in, who we're all clamoring for, and it's like, well, maybe they knew better than we did. Clamoring for him. My one point on the senior players that have moved on, like, firstly, Martin has not suited up for Geelong, and Cunningham never fit, so forget about them. So it's really about Owies and Kennedy. Like, I know that Kennedy has looked great for the Bulldogs, but like, where is he in is he in our best 23 right now?
Well, I still don't have an issue, like you're saying, with necessarily the players we got rid of. And I kind of made a bit of a list that you two could see. So I'll read them out for the listeners and the viewers. But it was kind of those who, and you can question their quality regardless, but they were AFL players. They played a lot of AFL football. If there was an injury, they were the next ones in. And that was Ed Curnow ended up retiring, Paddy Dow, Zach Fisher, Lockie O'Brien, Plowman, Stocker, Jack Carroll, Cunningham, Kennedy, Martin, and Owies. And I basically tried to find players that throughout that same period we'd brought in that kind of play a similar role to that. So Cooper Lord, Curnow. Okay, fair.
Yep.
Ben Camporelli in for Paddy Dow as a midfielder. Elijah Hollins for Zach Fisher as a half forward. Lockie O'Brien goes out, but we bring in Ollie Hollins, Bins, Lucas Camporelli. So now we've actually got a few wingers on there that can get it done. Plowman goes out of the back line. We've now got a young Matt Carroll. Stocker goes out, but we brought in Lockie Cowan. Jack Carroll goes out. Billy Wilson's there as probably that one to take his step as a bit of a utility around the midfield and maybe a bit off half back. Cunningham off the high half forward. Will White comes into that role. Kennedy out, Jagger Smith is that midfielder. Jack Martin out, Ashton Moy is meant to take that place. Owies, well, there's Fantasia and Francis Evans. Now, all those players that have left, I don't have issues with them leaving because I don't think you're winning a flag with those players. What we've then replaced it with, to a degree, some of it's okay. But for whatever reason, the players haven't taken that step. Like we spoke about it in the offseason that, well, Kennedy leaving allows Cooper Lord that pathway now into the team. And we liked what we saw of him late last season. We can't have too many of those inside midfielders in this team. So, okay, let's back in the ceiling. Evidently right now, Cooper Lord's not at the level we thought he probably was to take over Matt Kennedy straight away. We've lost, and again, they weren't fit and available, guys like Cunningham and Jack Martin, but we've replaced them with Will White and Ashton Moyer, who aren't even probably at the level to play AFL football right now. So and I'm not saying we should have kept them. That's not the argument I'm necessarily making, but if you're replacing guys who, when they did play when they were fit, were at the standard and were making us better, and you're replacing it with a guy who also can't play because they're not at the level, then we've missed something here. Where is that other level player that's above those that fills these gaps? Why aren't we able to find those? And then on top of that, why we're not developing players? Why are these guys not ready? Why aren't we finding the second, third round picks? How many players that we've drafted over the last 4 years have really come in? We're still waiting on Motlop, still waiting on Durden. Carroll's gone now. Moya, couple seasons in, and like there's still years of some of these players to work it out. But I feel like other clubs, you get a lot more glimpses. You see a lot more out of these guys. Do you have any thoughts on removing the depth and maybe not understanding where that level of player was at, and then maybe the issues around lack of development?
I just want to briefly say on Moya, I think it's tough to come into a game where the forwards are literally getting barely any look. So I don't I mean, I think we were all calling for it because of what we saw last year, and particularly when the team really needed it. So it's tough to make a call like that. But
it's his second year. I'm definitely not. The more recent draft classes, I'm sort of not having a go at. It was more
totally.
No one has really come in.
No.
Where you look at other teams, and even an Ashton Moyer age level, there's a couple of players that all of a sudden are playing some good football for other clubs. We don't seem to have any right now.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just thinking. I tried to put our team together for this upcoming week. I don't know. My thoughts are just a bit everywhere with these young players. Like, if you've got any clear points on it.
I mean, it definitely doesn't feel like anyone's knocking down the door, putting their hand up. I mean, it's good to reflect on this list of even just the players that you said that have left the club, Ian, because you mentioned like the drafting of the last 4 years. Well, yeah, you can also then just look at it of the last 8 years. And I know it's not always useful to have these conversations, but it would have been nice if some of those first round picks that you mentioned, our team looks a whole lot different if those guys are 27 and in their prime rather than wilting away wherever they are.
So do you think that, and now, because now's kind of that time where you go through every part of the football club and you start pointing the finger at everyone. Do you think it's fair that Nick Austin is, for probably the first time since he ever came to the club, that we're starting to go, okay, have we actually built the correct list? Do you think that's fair, knowing that, I guess, looking at the kind of replacements that we've made for those more depth players that I listed, and then on top of that, I think while we maybe not have replaced it perfectly, on top of that, there's still areas that we kind of haven't addressed at all. We still don't have that second key defender for Wiedering. There's still lack of run and ball movement off halfback. We still don't have a dynamic midfielder. Was that Jagger Smith? Question mark. But again, can you rely on an 18-year-old? What are we doing outside of that? Still don't have a small forward. Don't have that mid-high half forward that can change games, that's creative. So not only have we not addressed the depth and fixed that and developed this talent, there's still clear list holes. So do you think it's fair that I guess Nick Austin is starting to get questioned?
The one point I'll say on this before I pass to you, Robbo, on Austin is I think it's good timing with Graham Wright and when he's coming in and where we're at now, and the fact that he's kind of got this year to have I mean, obviously he's been watching Carlton from afar throughout this era, and now he's kind of in the four walls and he's looking at all these things, and Brad Lloyd's name comes to mind, and not just Vossi, the assistant coaches and that kind of thing. So I think it's good timing that those things are probably being reviewed by him going into this. Robert.
Yeah. I think the biggest telltale sign is just how many players we've got playing in a different position, like in terms of list caps, like Kemp, Silvani. At times we've thrown different players on the wing, half forward. Maybe it was just for form, but even Cherry at the half back. Like, I don't know. We've just done some different things, obviously based on what we needed. But yeah, I think just to talk about the list, like the narrative was spine, top quality, but now that even some of the top quality can dip in form and have a tricky, period. Like, what are we actually? What is the team that we're trying to build? And that is so closely related to the game style. It was very obvious in 2023. 2 talls up forward, kick to contest, bring to ground, 3 fast-moving small forwards to crumb to continue handball chain to the next contest down the line, if not kick a goal. That's clear. Obviously too clear, because it's easy to then strategize and defend against. So you built a team around that style of game. Now you're changing the game style to precision kicking and being fast. Well, you have talls and you have guys who can't kick. It's a simple way to look at it, but to me, it just feels like clearly then a mismatch. because then I just want to see players play the game in our team who can kick the ball. I don't want to see the ball in hands of players that can't kick. So it's like, why am I so off Walsh at the moment? Just can't kick.
And I feel like that, like what you're saying there as well, just immediately resonates with what you kind of open this episode to. In if clearly we've identified there's issues, we can't play this brand of hot contested football. It doesn't work. So we need to evolve it. What then if they were just potentially more honest and had said, look, we've gotten a few things wrong. We're evolving this. And maybe you get pushback from the fans and people saying, oh, how many more years can we give you? Blah, blah, blah. We want success now. And that's fine. That rhetoric that's always going to be there. But if you're honest and simply say, look, not to bias time, because we are clearly trying to win now. We always want to win. That's the standard, always to perform. But we're just working out a few things because we've realized there's some errors. We're trying to develop this game style. We kind of have to tweak the list now over these next few years. We still think we can compete while we're doing that, but this is the direction. Whereas, I don't know, and there is just such a disconnect everywhere because then you have Sayers leave in the way he does. New president comes in. You don't hear from him and what his message is. Cook's leaving. So that kind of plan is, it's like the Port Adelaide situation at the moment where Hinkley's the coach, but he's not the coach because Carr's going to be it. So you're in this weird middle ground. Feels like us right now. We don't fully know what it is and the direction it's going in. It's probably evident why the on-field is performing like this because we're in this just limbo area.
Definitely agree with that. It feels like we're in limbo. And that's why it felt like looking at, like when I was trying to put together a team to go on the park, I was like, God, where can Sard play? Can we just put him at half forward? Like, I was just thinking, okay, Chera not giving us what we need. Like, can we throw you at half forward or what? Like I was just thinking Walsh, half back. Like, I'm just starting to think we're in limbo. Accept it, throw some players around because what is happening right now is just not worth watching. It's just I don't want to see like what happened to the days of just throwing someone in a different position. Like, I feel like a fossil sometimes where I just want to see something different. And then at least like I wonder what the supporter would feel like if they saw a few changes. And like maybe it's you can't please the fans. You got to stick to what you're doing. But I just think so much of what we're talking about is building a list for a game style that's gone out of date super quick because the game has evolved. And to me, that's just an error in shadow, like in planning for the future. No admission that is the reality, and now we're trying to cover it up. We're just we cover it up. The president situation, just new one, whatever. Just covering up different things across the ground. Like,
I'm always open to hearing positional changes and that kind of thing, and I like that topic. But like, I'm open to hearing more suggestions because people like Sard and Sheriff forward sounds terrible to me. I feel like Motlop in the midfield, which is what they've been trying, like looks terrible. Williams in there
looks
isn't working.
Terrible.
Like, but then I applaud the Kemp and Silvani for me. You guys may disagree. I'm completely sold. Like, I'm sold on Charlie, Harry, Kemp being the three tools. Please persist with that. I'm sold on Silvani down back. So that's good changes that have been made. But if there's any others you've got, I'm open to hearing them. But I don't have them. I'd rather keep running back the personnel personally.
I think my issue with potentially changing players out of where they are is we're struggling with certain things, like take like the Sard one for an example. I know you're not married to that, and it feels like we're just absolutely shitting on you, and you were just using it as an example.
Let's clip that.
But it's more like okay. In that sense, because it's the same thing I'm having. I'll change it so I'm not just shitting on you. Like Ollie Hollands, my thing right now is he's been fine off halfback. I haven't minded him being there, but I still love him on a wing. I think we're missing something there. You saw in that Collingwood game, his dash through, kicks 2 goals, him ahead of the ball. I think it's so vital to how we play. So I want to push him to the wing. Now I'm thinking, well, shit, who takes his spot off halfback with a bit of run and a bit of wanting to take the game on? Well, it can't be Cowan now because he's out. And so that's kind of my issue with these moves is I feel like I'm taking a player out to fix something else, and then it just completely ruins what we had back there. So it's a struggle. So let's pivot to it. Let's move towards the West Coast game.
Yep.
What changes would you like to see this week? I'll start with you, Robbo. Are there any positional changes? Do you have any ins and outs that you're saying this is the clear route that we need to line in the sand, start from here? Otherwise, the rest of the season is just going to be more of the same.
Yeah, Motlop in the ruck.
Why not?
Start forward.
Go through the legs.
Start forward, Motlop in the ruck. TDK off the half back, breaking lines. He's clearly the best kick in the team as well, honestly.
That's the first good suggestion you've made.
He'll win highest kick, that's for sure.
Yeah, actually, yeah, so just with my very rough knowledge, Pito a test and Cottrell a test. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess Mackay and Hollands.
Possible. Yeah, I've heard both are up for selection, whether then they choose them or not. I assume Harry's definitely a yes. Elijah would potentially be more up to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at this
just
stage.
With the culture and energy thing and the spirit thing, like Elijah, one of our best users, Mackay, like I was absolutely on everything he was doing for us last year. Thought he had a ripper season. So it's like, everywhere you look, we just lost heart and spirit to start the season. Like it was just a shadow of what we feel as supporters and feel as the club. So, I mean, for me, Mackay and Elijah coming back ASAP maybe makes us look more like what we need to look like. And I don't know, Cottrell, Chincotta, they were part of that as well. So I felt like when we played Cottrell, I think was he half back round one? I think it was something like this. But, or maybe it was half forward, but just playing him out of position, not on the wing, just felt like he didn't really gel with it. He didn't really know what he was doing. So, yeah, I think I agree with you guys saying play the guys in the positions they're comfortable with. It's just tricky that we've got these weird situations around the ground where we're kind of now second guessing, okay, well, who is the better one, Hollands or Cottrell on that wing if Akers is sticking to his wing?
And then I've even heard, I don't know if it'll actually happen because a couple of weeks ago, there was Chera was training with the defenders, but then he ended up playing midfield. Walsh was the one this week that the onlookers said was spent a bit of time training with defenders. So is that a lever they're potentially pulling Walsh off half back, or is it just absolutely nothing? I think my changes this week, my biggest thing is even though the defense has technically played well, I think it's held up pretty decently. I don't want the 4 key defenders anymore. I don't like it.
I think it's time.
I liked the idea
giving
of
the governor spell.
He's the one I'm getting rid of. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah, I haven't got McGovern playing for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see on the run sheet, I think I ended up putting that on yours, not mine, but he's had 17 turnovers this season. 7 of them have resulted in goals, which is the worst in the AFL. So he's the one that makes way. I think Haynes has actually been okay. Like, Gov's been trying, but every time he gets near the ball, something bad happens. And at least I feel like the last 2 games, Haynes has been solid enough. So Sauce is my second key defender. Haynes can play as that third. Just go smaller. I'm going to throw Zach Williams back down halfback as well. I thought we were getting a little bit more run and dash from him in that space. Ollie Hollands can go out to a wing. Boyd probably to come back in as well. Matt Carroll. There's enough players there that are smaller and want to take the game on if we get into a scenario where the midfield starts to lack, we might have a bit of drive from somewhere else. I just think those 4 key defenders, as soon as ahead of the ball doesn't work, our transition is disappeared because we're just sluggish. We're tall and laboured. Where do you guys see the 4 talls in the back line right now?
Yeah, I'm happy to try something different there now, I think.
So what? Silvani, Wiedering, Williams, Boyd, Sard, Haynes.
Yeah, so I will grab up my little team here. So yeah, I've got Wiedering, Silvani, Haynes as my talls, complemented by Boyd, Williams, Sard, and Matt Carroll at this stage.
Yep. Yeah. Just thinking about
Pretty
West
good.
Coast. And I guess whatever they pull out there, they've got a few tall blokes in their forward line, but I'm happy. We've given this a 4-week patch, as Voss said, like wanted to go with the stability. And I think now it's time. Let's try the stability of just 3 talls and give that a good crack. I'm definitely in agreement.
Yeah. And then what about you, Robbo, with the 3 tall forwards? Obviously, Lockie's very happy to back Kempy in. He's had a bit of a up and down start so far. Where do you see the 3 talls down forward? Is that something you want to persist with?
It is, provided like the smalls are up around the drop of the ball. I think I just don't love seeing the ball come to ground and Mackay and Curnow trying to put on chase. Like that's where I start to worry about just our forward pressure. But in terms of how they all play, and I think it's great. We have athleticism, power. Curnow's been getting a little higher up the ground. That could really work nicely. Harry's great. Clunking marks, impacts, doing his snap, doing his kicks. Like, he'll get his form back. But then, yeah, and Kemp's pretty versatile. I mean, how did he just kick 5 goals? Like, that's pretty good. He's clearly okay up there. And we just need to persist in case he kicks another 3 or 4. Like, that's fine.
For me, I just want to get Harry in and then try and let the 3 of them try and get some chemistry and work out. Like, just in my mind, it's such a beautiful future of versatility of the 3 of them. Yeah. Having synergy, leading into different parts. Sometimes we can kick it to 2 of them in a different spot. And I feel like we could be at the end of the season and be like, wow, like the 3 talls. The thing that we've been talking about, like ever since kind of we got Charlie and Harry, it's like, do we need a 3rd tall with them or not? And it's been a cast of people that have tried it. I really believe that Kemp can be that. And I think that is not the problem with the team at the moment, is the 3 talls. And I think it's far more based on the mids. And then the other part of it is, if you don't want to go the 2 talls, you're going to have to sell me pretty hard on who else you're going to put in that forward line, because there's not a lot of inspiring names if you're going with another small.
Yeah, like personally, I'm not sold on. Yeah, well, I'm not sold on Kemp necessarily as a forward, but we haven't seen it, and we haven't seen it with Harry and Charlie. So this is, I'm in agreement with you guys. With in the short term, let's just see what can actually happen with it. To complement that, where are you seeing the smalls at the moment? Motlop, we were expecting to take a jump, and so much of this, I don't want to necessarily just bag out these players because there's so much everywhere around the ball not going right that. Does that just compound and make their job a lot harder? But Motlop hasn't taken that step so far. Fogarty hasn't really done a lot. I haven't seen a lot of his pressure that we know. We know he's not a goal kicker, but if he's not bringing the pressure, what's he doing there? I thought Will White showed some glimpses, but again, he probably shouldn't be in the team. Like, I have him in this week, but realistically, we shouldn't be in round 4, round 5, and Will White is now in the starting squad. Corey Durden coming back from injury, Cottrell coming back. This forward line is worrying with the rest of the supporting cast. How do you guys see it?
I don't want to see Francis Evans ever getting a game again.
Yeah.
Is that too harsh?
Right.
No, it's not.
He needs to do a lot to, I guess, earn that call back.
Yeah, it's just, I just get a weird vibe with like the export players. I don't know. It's just
no.
Anyway,
Ian, would you mind summarizing your ins and outs just for clarity, just so I have them?
Oh yes, at the moment, my ins and outs.
I heard a lot of names.
I've gone big.
Go ahead.
I've gone Harry's in, Lewis Young is out. Jordan Boyd comes in for Lockie Cowan because he's injured. Matt Carroll replaces Mitch McGovern. So we've gone smaller in defense. Doherty has been dropped. Matthew Cottrell, if fit, takes his spot. So you've just got run. Elijah Hollins comes in for Ashton Moyer and he's starting. And then I've dropped Fogarty and Corey Durden is my sub. That's the one I'd least love. I don't know who to make the sub really. And Will White would be my kind of ideal sub, but I don't know if Durden's done enough. So yeah.
Wow.
What do you make of that? And do you have anything similar, at least for some of those outs?
Fogarty.
Yeah, I really liked it all. It's just the last one that probably surprised me. I do feel bad when we give players like a brief go, like White and Moyer, and then you bring them straight out. But for me, I think with the quality that we can come back in, I'd be moving both of them on and probably giving Fogarty another chance. But if we saw those 6 or 7 changes, I'd be pleased.
Yeah.
I guess the part for me is how could you not see 3, Doc, Young, and Gov? Like that would be panic stations for me. Like if they're not coming out, then I'd be really questioning things. And then obviously the additionals. So
do you predict that
they
will?
To see.
Ian, do you think they will drop McGovern or Haynes, or do you think they will run it back with 4 tools again?
I think the changes this week will be Lewis Young out, Harry Mackay in, Lockie Cowan out, Matthew Carroll in, Elijah in for Ashton Moyer, Will White the sub.
Yeah.
I think that'll be the changes they will make. I can't see them dropping Doherty. I can't see them dropping McGovern.
Really?
They've never made a statement. This football club under Michael Voss and this match committee, now you got me ranted. Look what you've done. They've never really made a statement. When things have been bad, they've never done it. They've kind of always persisted, backed things in, and just made last in, you're out again. That's kind of all they've really done. Match committee hasn't been great for a long time.
What's the plus? Like, what's the upside with Doherty playing out the year?
I still think there could be something for Doc.
Yeah?
I'm not completely writing him off because even though I haven't seen it this season, he's been through so much. He's the last person I'll ever write off completely. My biggest issue with him right now is he has no role. So I can't, until he's able to find a role that suits what he is and suits what he can do, I can't see him coming back in. And will he then be able to turn it around and get that form back after another ACL? The evidence right now would say absolutely not. And he's unfortunately hit that point where he just can't do it anymore. But my bigger concern over just his ability right now is, what is he? Is he a midfielder, wing, half forward, half back? Feels like he's on the field. And
he's
he
on
doesn't
the
have
field,
a position.
And when he's close to it, it's not good. So I don't know if our problem is the youth. Like I can't imagine getting to 0-4 and not making a change on an older player who's coming off a serious injury, who's not shown really much. Like I just couldn't imagine the psychology of that. Even if we just said, I don't know if you can play him in the twos or just let him keep training and maybe bring him back if things stabilize. But I just
you know what our twos team needs right now? A bit of leadership in the midfield, a bigger body to help out the young kids in the midfield.
It's not going to be as fast. It's not going to be as hectic. Just take the pressure off him, maybe. But at the moment, it just feels like, I don't know. And he's a smart guy too.
Yeah, I think he's more valuable at the moment leading the next crop, like we kind of did for a little bit with Ed Curnow in the twos of just, we need you to just teach these boys how to do it, teach them the standards, just go through everyone throughout the entire game and let them know what needs to be done at a high standard. I think that there's so much value in that this year. And if he ends up getting some confidence and gets a bit of form, then there's a spot for you in the ones. But that's much better for me.
I think we agree on what should happen, but I also agree with you, Ian, that I think he will be picked this week.
And Pito, you think he won't come in?
No, I think I don't think we need the 2 rucks, particularly against West Coast. And then after such a long layoff, we talk about match committee a lot. Surely get yourself a game in the 2s before you can really get that selection.
But realistically, will he even be on the ground much? Like if he's probably only going to be a sub for the ruck, right? Isn't that how we used him like vaguely last year?
In what is it in the ones?
Yeah, like
he
doesn't really have to do and then bench.
Yeah,
so I mean, like,
or down forward, kicking a couple of goals against Brisbane late. That was about.
I was going to say, didn't you watch the final?
No, I mean, yeah, I just look at TDK and I think, oh God, like whenever you're not on the ground, I'm like, get on the ground. But then I'm like, oh yeah, but yeah, you obviously can't do that because you're getting absolutely mauled by opposition ruck and mids. So, I mean, honestly, in terms of protecting your assets, I think that would be a really handy way to do that. I'm actually interested to see, and maybe you've talked about this already, but Cripps Ruck, where you see that and just what you'd like to do moving forward. Have you touched on that a lot?
I don't think we've actually ever mentioned it this season, which it's been a big talking point.
We haven't talked about it now.
Let's fucking shut it down.
Lockie, what are your thoughts on Cripps in the Ruck so far this year?
My hypothesis is that they do it to try and disrupt opposition defensive schemes. That's my hypothesis. So it's like, if somebody is doing a job on Cripps or whatever it might be, suddenly he's in the ruck and it's like, okay, what are we doing here? And that could lead to some clearances. My question back to you guys would be, is Cripps healthy right now?
Doesn't look it. He took a big hit against the Dogs on the hip and then
old man
backed it up with
starts like
couldn't move against the Pies.
That was not ever against the Pies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, the ruck thing for me, I don't really hate it as much as everyone else does. We saw it at stages last year. I think in small increments, it's fine. Against Richmond, he was rucking against Camden McIntosh. Like, let's actually, if we're going to have the conversation, he wasn't going up against Nankervis. You know what I mean? Like, so if he's up against another midfielder for 5 minutes a game, I don't have a massive issue with it. It gets us an extra midfielder around the ball. I think if you're doing it for too longer periods, then it's a worry. And that's probably what we've seen this year. He's probably been in there too much. And how much does that tire you out? Considering he's one of our biggest assets and you don't want that. Surprised we haven't seen with the 4 key defenders, Jack going into the ruck. Kemp, throw him in there. He's tall enough to do something. Do we just simply miss Harry being that extra kid out? I feel like we're playing enough talls that someone can do it. Like, at least the positive with Lewis Young has been he can be a body in the ruck, and he does that adequately well. So, yeah, the second ruck's an issue still, though.
That's why I wonder whether it's a tactical thing, though, because then in theory, we've got an extra midfielder in the contest. Like, as long as Cripper doesn't, as long as the hit out doesn't go 20 meters in our defensive direction, we've hopefully got an extra kind of clearance player around the ball. Like that train of thought makes me think that it's kind of interesting and maybe could work. Not that it has been.
What do you think of it, Robbo?
Because if you put Kemp in there, say, do you want Kemp on the wing around the contest? My prediction would be that probably wouldn't go that well. Silvani, we know, is a better one. We know he can do it.
I don't mind seeing Kemp there because he's kind of been everywhere. So what?
I guess so.
I don't know. In my head, I see him as that Silvani type forward. So could that naturally lend itself? Potentially.
It's all just this building the ship whilst flying at stuff. Like Kemp probably had to stay there because Harry was out those 2 games. Like, it's just like if Harry's there, okay, maybe we will see Kemp. It's obviously so much. There's obviously so much happening. And so I guess all I come at it from is like, I feel like it's a lot for Cripps to be just in periods of rucking as well as everyone expecting him to be a clearance beast. So I don't mind it. I like it when he comes in there on occasion, but definitely when I see him getting tangled up with the bigger bodies, I'm just like, maybe not. So we'll see. I think that's just part of the DNA of the midfielders needing to change as well, because that's a place we need to improve.
No,
because if Chera's not firing,
it's been a big problem. It's been a big problem. So the last couple of questions before we wrap this episode up, talking about West Coast, is there anything from this game that will get you back excited about the Blues, that will give you that positive outlook? Or is it simply we need a sustained few game patch? Because maybe a win is literally all we need to start turning things around. Like, what can you take out of this game? Because we had this conversation in the Richmond game and we couldn't even get the win there. So I'm not saying this is a 100% locked down win against the Eagles. But if in that scenario we finally get our first win of the season, is there anything you can take out of that moving forward?
Of course. I think we're going to win by 50. It's going to be great. I mean, Eagles are in all sorts.
Me too.
Captain's just having coffees. Like, I think if you don't go up to Oscar Allen this week and just say, mate, I'll have a cappuccino with oat milk, please. Yeah. I think we've just got to actually get back to a bit of love around that sort of stuff. Like, enjoy it, stay pretty buoyant and positive. If I see us just come out, kick a few goals and look like not so tense, great. And I mean, it could be anything. I expect us to win. I'd like us to win. And I think it's a good chance to just show that even though the wheels have come off, we can put them back on and just get a win now. And if we can't, I'll be obviously super flat again and just think, we've really, 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 really dipped in expectation. Like Mulligan against the Tigers, 2-3 tough games where we've just completely failed each challenge. Eagles and Adelaide Oval, like that would be a pretty peculiar game to lose. You'd have to start asking some pretty serious questions. Like that would be wouldn't that just be like a berserk game to lose? Like,
I never want to think about what that could look like.
Eagles winning anywhere but Perth is berserk. To do it to the Blues in Adelaide, that would be... Honestly, we deserve anything that comes for us.
I'd refuse to ever go back. I think we should never be able to go back to that state. Just immediately just forfeit any time it's in the fixture, because clearly it can't be done.
We have a good gather round history
against we do, which is surprising. Apart from the first one.
Yeah.
Apart from that first one. Yeah.
All of this chat is why we won't be able to take anything from this game, in my opinion. Like, in terms of positivity and like being up and about, hell yeah, I will be if we have a big win.
Yeah.
But it's not, I just don't see it being able to tell us anything, no matter what.
No.
Even if it's 100 points. Like,
yeah. No, I agree. I don't think there's anything performance-wise that I'm going to sit back and say, oh, we're back. But I think it's just so vital, confidence-wise, everything, circuit breaker. Just a week out of the spotlight is all they need. It's going to be very interesting because it's put back in that the Blues surely can't lose this one, which is what they were in Richmond and folded. So it's a perfect test. It is the perfect test for this squad to find out everything you need to know. And the one thing that, like, there was something you said, Robbo, that sparked this thought, which was in just looking for those little things and needing a spark. Like you were joking with going up to Oscar Allen, but I think we saw maybe Vossi trying that when they announced Matt Carroll was debuting this week. He rips off the top and all of a sudden he's got the skivvy on, wake up Jeff. And you're like, just those little things, you're like, that's good. That's what I want to see because everything's so depressing clearly around the club right now. You need to take the piss out of yourself. It reminds me of that Danny Frawley, like, what am I, boys? As he's holding a pump over his head. And he's like, I'm under the pump. It's like you need to laugh and enjoy footy again. And that's hopefully what, to a degree, Vossi's trying to do, trying to pull a different lever of just have fun, boys.
Totally. And I think, just go back to the initial question around what can supporters do? Manifest the win. Like, manifest that Harry comes back in and kicks 3 and they're all snaps. Like, just like just manifest like crazy stuff. Like, and I think, because if you can't let yourself just enjoy going to the footy and you're going to overcook and overthink the game too much in terms of the result, like, don't play it out, because the moment you start doing that, the players do start getting caught up in that as well. If we can just celebrate good moments, like, it's going to come back to that. All the good clubs do it. I celebrate those good moments. I want to see like people tackling people over the boundary and 1 or 2 jumpers pulling a person up. Like, I just want to see goals kicked, hugs, kisses, whatever you need to do. I've seen a couple of kisses around the league. So, give him a kiss on the
Harry
lips.
A big smooch.
Just give him a big smooch him up. Honestly,
whole line, 22 of them.
Honestly,
one by one.
Get him on the shoulders, like whatever it takes. Like, show a bit of love. Take it out of Good Ones books. Bit of love.
Absolutely perfect. I think that's the perfect way to end this episode. Normally it's me having to give some sort of rev up, but you've absolutely nailed that. I'm not getting any better than that. Thank you so much, Robbo, for joining us for this episode. Things were bleak, and I think we needed just a different perspective. And I know I'm feeling at least a little bit better, a little bit more optimistic about at least what I can bring as a fan into each and every week, because there's nothing wrong with having a bit of positivity. I think that's the best way to do it. So, Robbo, thanks for joining us again. It's been absolutely wonderful. We'll be back next week after a massive win against the West Coast Eagles. Up the bloody Baggers. See you guys next time.
Kisses to you.